and welcome to the Fiber of My Being podcast, a podcast about knitting and spinning and fibery things in general. Anything I feel like doing that week, basically. And my name is Megan. I'm coming to you from the heart of Pennsylvania, where I live with my husband Paul and our 3 cats. And just a second ago, 2 of them were running around chasing each other right here, so you might see them pop up occasionally. That would be Esther and Agatha. And yeah, so it's the 5 of us here living in Pennsylvania, and I am doing all the crafty things. So you can find me on Ravelry as Fiber of My Being, and on Instagram also as Fiber of My Being. I forgot that I changed it. So now they both match, which is easier to remember, except for me. So feel free to go find me on Ravelry and friend me, or to follow me on Instagram. Chat with me, whatever you feel like doing. I'd love to hear from you if you're enjoying watching this podcast. And if you're not, and you have suggestions for how I can make it better, I'd love to hear from you too. And here's Agatha behind me. Agatha. No, she doesn't want to come over. She's very confused because this chair isn't normally here at this time. It's normally facing away from the window instead of towards it, but I'm trying out a new setup for my podcast. So the cats are confused. But it looks like she feels like taking a little bath over here. So she might be entertaining. She might be distracting. She might play with my knitting. That's a no-no. Kittens. And besides finding me personally on Ravelry, you can also find a Fiber of My Being podcast group under the groups tab on Ravelry. So to join in discussions with other viewers or just share a bit about yourself. If I ever get to the point where I'm doing giveaways or something, it would work through there as well. Sorry, I heard a cat meowing, and I'm not sure why. Our cats usually just meow when they want food, and it's not food time at all. So anyway, let me stop blabbering and start talking about my week and how it relates to knitting. So, first of all, I'll talk about what I'm wearing. So I did knit this scarf. It is, I believe, called the Duchess Wrap. It's from Pam Powers' Dress-to-Impress Knitted Scarves book. And it's got this lovely faux cable pattern. There's no cabling at all in this scarf, but it looks like it. And I love these antique-looking buttons that kind of secure the wrap around your neck. There's a part under here. It's just like kind of folded over itself, and I'm pretty happy with it. It keeps me nice and warm. So, as for my week in review, I've been not doing quite as much this week as I would normally because I've been volunteering a lot more at the shelter because students are away on holiday break and people are out of town and things like that, so there's a lot more shifts that need help. They tried to get most of the dogs and cats out to holiday foster homes so that there's less work for volunteers to do, but there are still like 7 dogs and I think somewhere like 23 cats or something like that need caring for, and so I've been over there a lot helping out. So I haven't done quite as much work on fibery things as I was hoping to, but when I wrote up the list of what all I've done this week, I actually realized that I've done more than I thought I did. So yeah. And also for context, I am filming this on Christmas Eve. It might not get up until a couple days after Christmas Day because it takes me forever to upload stuff. But I am filming this on Christmas Eve, so I guess I will wish you a belated Merry Christmas if you celebrate. Well, it's not belated because Christmas is 12 days, so I have 12 days to get this up and still wish you a Merry Christmas. So that works. It's the 12 days after Christmas, not the 12 days before. So I have time. It's not even Christmas yet, just Christmas Eve. And if you don't celebrate Christmas, I just wish you a happy time at the end of this year. 2016 has been a bad year, just for everyone, I think. So, wishing everyone a better 2017. But yeah, now that I'm way off topic, one of the things that I did pour a lot of energy into this week was the spinning wheel. I've been practicing a lot on my aunt's spinning wheel and producing quite a lot of yarn. It's weird for me to be producing this much yarn all at once after having spun on a drop spindle. Like, one skein of yarn that I've spun on the wheel that took me just one night, just a couple hours actually, to spin, it would have probably taken me a whole week of dedicated drop spindling to finish that yarn. So I'm just amazed at the output that I can achieve with the spinning wheel. So you'll be seeing some of that coming up. And the other thing I got mildly obsessed with this week was knitting dishcloths. I don't know why. Well, actually, I do know why. I just finished reading the Mason-Dixon knitting books, Mason-Dixon Knitting and Mason-Dixon Knitting Outside the Lines. That is hard to say. And they like dishcloths a lot, so they have some dishcloth patterns in there. I haven't actually made any of the patterns from their book, but I was inspired by it. It was a library book that I checked out, so I had to return it before I could knit anything from it. But I might check it out again later, because I was really kind of enjoying knitting dishcloths. And I have a stash of cotton yarn that I don't really do anything with, so I just thought it'd be fun to use the dishcloths to try different techniques that maybe I wouldn't want to try in a whole huge project. So I can just do little projects and try them out. So I've been talking for a really long time now without getting to any knitting. So let's just get to it, shall we? So finished object-wise, my first finished object, if you follow me on Instagram, you might have seen these, are finished socks. I finished my first ever pair of 2 at a time socks. I will hold them up here so it's easier to see. So this is Premier wool-free sock yarn in their Grand Canyon color, which I just love. And I didn't do anything like contrasting heels and toes and cuffs and things because, well, I just really liked this yarn and I just wanted whole socks made out of this yarn. And plus it was easier with my first pair of socks just to keep knitting with the same yarn. So I'm really happy with how these turned out. They were knitted cuff down with a traditional heel flap and gusset. And I'm going to put my arms down for a second because they're getting tired. Oh, the pattern I used was just the one on the back of the yarn band for this yarn. It's just a basic pattern. And it did have a couple mistakes in it, mainly when it came to turning the heel. But I just looked up turning heels online and was able to fix it. It just missed like one row and it just kind of threw everything off. So yeah, I'm really happy with how these turned out. And also, I have been watching a lot of Avatar: The Last Airbender this week. I'm like now in the 3rd book, the Fire book, and I've seen it before, but I just felt like watching it again. Sorry, my throat is a little bit sore from all the winter weather. But I've been watching it, and I recently got to the part where Toph Beifong decides she can bend metal. She realizes that she can bend metal because metal is just refined earth. So I channeled my inner metal bender and bent myself up some sock blockers from just some wire hangers. These are actually coated wire hangers. I thought that'd be a little bit nicer, less chance of snagging things with the yarn. So I'll take one of the socks off here so I can show you the sock blocker itself. It's not perfect, but it does just fine a job of blocking my socks. And this is shaped to fit my foot particularly. I used a tutorial on skepticfreethought.com about DIY wire sock blockers, and she or he, I don't really know, sorry, takes you through the steps needed to measure your own foot and figure out the dimensions for how to bend your wire hanger into a sock blocker. So I've made 2 of those and blocked my very first pair of 2 at a time socks on them. It's also only my second pair of socks. The first pair was just a little, little shorty socks, and they don't fit very well, but these fit nicely, and I've been dying to wear them, but I've resisted so that I could show them off in their nice, pristine condition. But these might be my comfy Christmas Eve socks tonight. So, socks! I finished socks. I'll make a sock knitter of me yet. So, next up was some spinning. So, last week I think I shared that after I did some spinning on the spinning wheel, I decided to make sure not to neglect my drop spindle. I had spun up this skein of caramel apple merino tencel fiber before and plied it up into a cabled 4-ply yarn, but I still had more of this fiber left, so I started spinning it last week, and well, I finished spinning it this week and plied it up and set the twist and everything. So this one turned out a little bit thicker than the other one, maybe because I was rushing it to get it done, but I'm not too picky about my hand spun yet, so I'm pretty happy with that. So I love the colors. This was dyed by the Bauer family farm and produced presumably by the Bauer family farm as well. And they were a vendor at the Central Pennsylvania Fiber Festival in the spring. So yeah, I've spun it all up now. I wanted to do this on the drop spindle for consistency, but it didn't turn out very consistent. This was a lot more fiber, so this skein is a lot bigger, but it's also thicker than this other skein. So, I like them. They turned out well. I'm not too picky about the difference in thickness, so I'm happy with that. And then I was also spinning on the wheel, and I produced my first yarn from the wheel. I think I might have had some of this plied up last week but hadn't taken it off the bobbin, but now I have taken it off the bobbin and set it and spun another one and another one. I spun 3 whole skeins of this mystery white wool, and I'm just very happy with it. This is why I was saying my output in this was fantastic, because it probably took me a few months to spin this small little skein of caramel apple, and it took me just like a couple days to spin all of this. So I just 2-plied it, so it's just a simple 2-ply. It's not very consistent. There are some really big patches here and there. I was getting used to drafting with the spinning wheel. But I think they turned out pretty consistent within each other, and so I'm okay with that. And yeah, so my aunt asked me to spin some of this wool up for her, so these will probably go to her to knit or crochet with. So happy about that. Cats. I don't know if you can hear them just wrestling around on like stacks of paper back there, but they're just making a lot of noise here. So I have one more finished object, and it's a dishcloth like I was talking about. I forgot to weave in a couple of the ends, so just pretend those aren't there. But I've got this finished dishcloth. This pattern is the Almost Lost Dishcloth pattern by Julie Tarsha on Ravelry. And I just knit it out of your basic worsted cotton yarn. Whatever brand they sell at Michael's is what this is. I always get the brands mixed up because they all have like sugar and cream and peaches and cream and lily, and they all have to do with cream, and it's just too confusing for me. So anyway, yeah, so I just really enjoyed knitting this dishcloth pattern, and I might actually knit up some more of this because I have some nice variegated yarn. This has some blues and greens and yellow and white, and I just really like how it turned out, really like starbursty. I don't normally know what to do with variegated yarn as much. I'm not the biggest fan of variegated yarns because they're kind of unpredictable, and I like to be able to do color work that's planned, but I really like how this turned out. And basically, it's just a series of short rows. This is a free pattern, so I'm not like giving anything away. It's just a series of short row wedges, and then every so often you bind off a few stitches, but you just go around in a circle, and then at the end there is just one like stretch of seaming up to do, but it's not bad at all. So I'm really happy with how this turned out, and I might just be knitting more of these. So that's all my finished objects for this week. So I guess I will move on to works in progress. So I kind of resurrected a whip that I hadn't been working on very much, and I've been actually really enjoying it this week. It is the Heather Shawl. It's a Faroese style shawl, and the pattern is by Suzanne Fish, and I'm knitting it in Bernat Baby Softy in their DK yellow yarn base thing. It's just acrylic yarn, but I'm really, really enjoying this. It's a difficult pattern. It's very difficult. Earlier in my knitting career, I probably would have gotten frustrated with this pattern and just given up. But I'm really enjoying. Basically, the pattern doesn't do a very good job of telling you how to fit these lace repeats into the wedges and the middle. I mean, it does a good job about the middle, but sometimes the lace repeats and the wedge instructions don't line up very well, and so you have to kind of do some thinking about how to fit the lace repeat into these side wedges, because it's got this central panel and then two wedges on either side. So it's got this nice sort of wing shape that I'm looking forward to help hold it onto your shoulders. But so it is a really hard pattern to follow. It's not actually available last time I checked anymore. I had downloaded it and printed it, and now it's not available. So maybe they're trying to fix it, but I'm really enjoying the challenge of this is a pattern you have to think about, and it's like a puzzle. And so I know it's nice to have some mindless knits too, but this has been really enjoyable. I love the lace pattern, the diamonds and everything. And I haven't made that much progress. Probably the last time I showed this, I might have been like here or here or something. I haven't made that much progress, but I have been knitting on it. It does take a lot of concentration, but I'm really enjoying it. So it's a nice challenge. Next up, sorry, I've got my show notes in my lap and I'm trying to decipher my handwriting. Next up, I cast on, well, since I finished socks, apparently the thing I'm supposed to do is cast on more socks, right? Right. So I did. I cast on these socks. These are going to be for Paul. Oh, Agatha's over there again. She's our kitten. She's a bit crazy sometimes. Agatha. Anyway, let me talk about knitting instead of cats, right? So these are going to be for Paul, my husband, and I'm using, they're basically just vanilla toe-up socks, but I am following a pattern because I've never done toe-up socks before. So the pattern I'm using is the Vanilla Sock with Gusset and Choice of Heel by Jo Tor, and I will put all of this in the show notes in the description. So, like I said, these are my first 2 at a time toe-up socks. They're my first toe-up socks also. And the yarn for this is, there's a tag over the name, but it's Mountain Colors, beautiful hand-painted yarns. They're from Montana. I'm reading actually through the back of the label here, but I just wanted to at least show you the label. And this is their Crazy Foot base, I guess, which is 90% superwash merino and 10% nylon. And the colorway is called Pine Cone. So I'm really liking it, and Paul likes it also. It's just all these shades of brown. And in this lighting, it really looks like almost like oranges and purples, but when you see it from far away, or like in my lighting, the way it looks to me, it all just looks like shades of brown. So I really like the depth of color in these. And I'm hoping that the pooling doesn't get too weird. Right now, I think it's looking okay. I don't think Paul will be too fussy about pooling, but I'm not always a huge fan of it, which is partly why I don't use many variegated yarns. But I just couldn't resist. I saw this yarn and I thought it was Paul. So, knitting it up. So I've been making pretty quick progress with these actually, because I only cast them on a few days ago, and I haven't actually knit on them very much. So that's a lot of progress for me. And I'm doing these toe up to try a new technique, and also because I want to use every little bit of this yummy, delicious yarn as I can. So, and those are living in my owl bag. I never know, I don't know why. When I'm talking normally, I say owl normally, but when I'm talking on a podcast, I say it funny. Owl, owl, owl. These things. I'm such a dork. Okay, next up is also a knit for Paul. I'm doing a lot of knitting for Paul. And it is, I finally cast on his balaclava. So it doesn't look like much right now, just some bands of ribbing. And it's just mostly going to look like bands of ribbing. But I have cast it on, and that's the biggest hurdle. So I've been taking this with me in the car and things like this. This is great, like, car knitting at night sort of thing, even, because you don't really need to see what you're doing at all. It's just knit 2, purl 2, rib, basically, until you get to the face hole. So just knitting that up, and the pattern is, I've said this before when I knit my version of the balaclava, but the pattern is the Balaclava Ulan Cap by the New England Seafarers Mission, and I'm knitting it in Cascade 220 Superwash in this just light gray color. So, gonna keep working on that this week. It's getting cold, so he's gonna need it. Next up, I have to move a few things. Next up, I have been working on my temperature blanket. So, I think last week I'd sewn in all but like October and November of the ends. But now I've sewn in, let's see, this is October between these 2 points, so I've sewn all those ends in. And this is November, sewn them all in, and them all. And then I even sewed in most of the ends for December, too. I left like a couple of the really close ones, although not on this side because I don't know why. But yeah, and I'm about 3 days behind in the actual crocheting because, well, not 3 days. Today is the third day. So yeah, I'm a few days behind, but I can catch up no problem tonight. It'll be nice Christmas Eve knitting. So yeah, and I thought I would just quickly explain for people who are new to the podcast my idea, like where this idea is coming from. Paul wanted me to do this blanket, and he has helped some with it too. He helped with sewing in ends, and he did learn to crochet the rows, so he's done a few here and there. But he wanted a blanket to track the temperature of where we live, and so every single row is a different day. And then, except for the black rows, which just divide the months so that we can look at it and kind of see what months were what. And so every day is a different row, and we have a color scale that we worked out. So like purple is anything 22 degrees and below Fahrenheit. We're in the US, so we use Fahrenheit. But 22 degrees and below is purple, so we had a few cold days earlier this week. And then dark blue is 23 to 32 degrees, I believe. And then those are the only two I can remember right now, but light blue comes next, and then this light green, and then dark green, yellow, and then orange and red. So, yeah, we just determine what color each row is going to be based on the temperature of the day. We've been using the mean temperature for every day, but you could easily use any sort of temperature data that you want to. Let me see if I can show you Agatha. She's just sleeping by my yarn. So cute. So, anyway, yeah, so that's the idea. Paul kind of got it from, like, Facebook or Pinterest or something. And we've just been using Red Heart for it, because it's a large quantity of yarn at cheap prices. So, and bright colors. So it works out. So I'm really looking forward to the year being over, because then I'll be done with that blanket. It's been fun, but it's also been a lot of work, and I'm ready to be done with that. Agatha. She's so cute. Okay. Okay, so next up, I'm going to grab a book to show you also. I've resurrected another languishing whip, and I've been doing a little bit of work on it. And it's from this book, The Best of Jane Austen Knits. Love this book. And what I'm knitting is the Love and Loyalty Pinball. So, it's this little pinball. And over here you can see the other side. And it's just these two sides of kind of stranded color work that then you put together to make a pinball. So I've been knitting mine in size 10 crochet thread because that's what I had on hand. So it's probably going to end up being a really big pinball, but I'm okay with that. So, and I'm nearly done with the color work section of this side. Maybe 7 rows away from it or something like that. So I'm looking forward to that because this is kind of really fiddly, really tiny needles. And it's just kind of, I can't do many rows of this at a time. But I've just been kind of working my way through it slowly. And it's been nice. So the pattern for this is by Anne Carroll Gilmore, who is also the designer of the next whip that I have. So yeah, I will move on to that whip as well. So you may remember that I recently mostly finished Paul's British driving gloves, except for, you know, all the ends and blocking, and I have to sew on patches onto the palms. But what I started, and he doesn't know about this, I don't think, is I started the matching hat. It's all tangled up with things over here. Sorry, Agatha's really confused. But I started knitting the matching driving cap. So this is, the top is knit flat on this hat, and then you pick up around it to do the rest of the hat and the brim and everything. So I've started knitting it and haven't gotten too far, but I've only been working on this when Paul's not home. So yeah, making slow progress. I was hoping to have this done as a Christmas present, but it's Christmas Eve. Ain't gonna happen. But yeah, I am enjoying knitting this pattern, and the yarn is Simplicity by Haiku. The colorway is Seattle Sky, and the yarn is 55% merino superwash, 28% acrylic, and 17% nylon. So I figured that would be a nice yarn for him to wear, because he's fairly good at taking care of knitwear, but he can be a little bit rough on it sometimes. So figured this was a good yarn to use. So I'm enjoying knitting that and excited to be done with it so it can join its mitten mates. Okay, gotta catch my breath. Feel like I'm talking at a zillion miles an hour. So I also started knitting another washcloth, dishcloth thingy. And I'm not following a pattern for this. I just wanted to mostly try out this one stitch. So I kind of just made a swatch of it, but out of cotton yarn, so I can use it as a washcloth. And it's on the smaller side for a washcloth, but I'm okay with it. So I was wanting to try out Herringbone Stitch, which makes this lovely, almost woven texture. Tried to catch a cat. Sorry. Makes this lovely woven texture. So, and I do know what yarn this is. This is Peaches and Cream in the iced strawberry color. So, I think this turned out pretty well. It's not done yet. Still have the ends to sew in, but also I think I want to knit or crochet some sort of border around it to kind of just even things out and make it lay flat and look nice. So that's why this is still a work in progress, but I'm pretty happy with this. Yeah. Next up, this was a very light whip. I didn't work on this very much because if you've seen my previous episode, you'll know the dilemma I'm having with this. But this is the Print O the Wave Stole by Uni Zhang. And I basically think I've lost my game of yarn chicken with it because I still have to do a whole long side of the stole of the border. And I only have like 15 grams of yarn left. So I don't think I'm going to have enough to complete it. Like, just not enough. So I did a little bit of knitting on this, but not very much because I'm not sure if I want to frog the border and knit it all in a white lace yarn, or if I just want to knit the last long side in a white lace yarn so that it's like a like an accent wall for a shawl. So if you have any opinions on which you think would look better, I would love to hear them, because I really want to finish this. This was one of the most enjoyable knits I've knit in a long time. And I would enjoy it even more if I could finish it and make it look pretty. The yarn for this is Shirsty Cat Lovely Lace in her Springtime colorway. It's this lovely, just tonal green yarn. It's showing up really blue in my lighting, but it's just nice green colors, generally speaking. So yeah, it's a sort of whip. I did a little bit of progress on it. And then one more whip. Kitty, come back. Sad day. One more whip that I have is another wheel spinning project. And I am in 3 stages of completion on this currently. Well, really more like 2. So I've been spinning up this other fiber that my aunt gave me with the spinning wheel. And I like to call this the autumnal colors roving, because it's just got all these lovely colors, these greens and browns, but also this orange, and then just this little pop of like hot pink. I just really like it. It turns out really nicely. And so as you can see, I've already plied this up. I decided to Navajo ply so I could keep the colors together a bit more, because I just really liked the sequence they were in and I didn't want to muddy it up too much. So this is Navajo plied, and I haven't actually set the twist in this yet. I skeined it up and I took it off my knitting knotty because I needed to put another bobbin full of plied yarn onto my knitting knotty. So I'm gonna set the twist for both of these at the same time, but I would have a hard time showing it right now, but I have a bobbin full of singles of this roving, the last of the roving I spun up into singles. So I need to Navajo ply that as well, and then I can just set the twist for all 3 skeins all at once. But I just wanted to at least show you these 2, because excuse the end here, I just didn't feel like taking that off. I just love these colors. Really, really happy with, these are colors that I would never think to put together, but I just love them. They're so nice. So that's my last whip, I believe. And I did have a realization. I was having a lot of trouble spinning on the wheel at first. I was getting yarns this is a single that I spun up and decided not to ply just yet, because it was so just inconsistent and so funny looking. And I decided to stop spinning this wool. I thought I was spinning roving. and I was just having so much trouble with it that I stopped spinning it and I started spinning the nicer white roving instead. But I had a realization that what I was spinning at first wasn't roving. It was actually a bat, because it's quite obviously been fed through a drum carder. So I think I'll have a lot better a time of spinning this now that I know it's a bat, because I can treat it like a bat. I was treating it like roving and just thinking, this is the worst roving in the world. Well, yeah, because it's actually a bat, not a roving. So hopefully I'll be able to spin that up a bit easier now. But yeah, those are all of my works in progress. And then I have a special section today to cover because I decided to frog some things. I haven't frogged them yet, but I've decided to. I'm just gonna have like a frogging party or something. But I have this whole bag full of things that I decided to frog. I just wanted to simplify my life a little bit, and I was not enjoying these things, and I could use the yarn for better things than what I'm currently using them for. So, actually this I already did frog. I was trying to knit a pair of fingerless gloves out of this, but I just wasn't feeling it, so I frogged that, but I had only knit like the cuff of the gloves, so I just frogged it really quick so I could use the needles for something else. I don't even remember what pattern that was. And then I'm deciding that I want to frog this shawl because I don't think I have enough yarn for it anyway, and the pattern just got a bit confusing for me. It's the Chanson en Crochet shawl. It's from the Wrap style book by, I think by Pam Allen and Ann Budd, but don't quote me on that. Wrap style is definitely the book, and I'll try and put the full details in the description. But it's this really nice looking crochet lace, but I just don't love the yarn that it's in. It just looks too fuzzy. I think this is Red Heart Soft, and I just don't love it. And I haven't worked on this in over a year, so I'm gonna frog it. That was really satisfying. I also had this ambition at one point to crochet a sun hat out of raffia yarn. And I was gonna design this pattern all by myself and everything, and I just could never make it look the way I wanted to. So I had frogged back to try and start the middle of the hat again, but I'm just like, nah, I just don't want to do this anymore. So I'm gonna frog that too. And it might have just become a cat toy. Oops. And then I think I'm pretty sure I've decided to frog this as well. Maybe I'll save this boho sock for a later time, but it just looks so tiny, and I don't know if it's gonna fit right, and it was just a really ambitious project for someone who's never actually knitted much in the way of socks before. So this is from the Color Style book, same series as the Wrap Style book that shawl was from. So if I'm not gonna frog this, I'm at least just gonna put the stitches on a waste yarn and just tuck it away somewhere until I decide what I actually want to do. But I'm just letting this disappear for a bit, at least. And then the thing that got me started on the deciding what to frog front was actually my Natalie Tunisian Shrug by Megan Granholm. I don't remember the book that it's in, but I've shared this in previous episodes, so you can check out the show notes of the previous videos if you want to know more about this. But I did crochet the whole back of this. It's Tunisian crochet, so it's got this nice I actually really like this texture, but I just have been having a lot of trouble with the sleeve for this, and I think my gauge has changed a lot because I've spent so little time working on this, so I just don't love it, and I don't really know if it's going to turn out okay. And I just don't know if I'll really wear it that much either, so I think I'm just going to frog it. I mean, I'll definitely frog the sleeve. Maybe I'll just keep this finished back piece around in case I ever feel like having another crack at the sleeves, but I just made so many mistakes in the sleeves, or in the sleeve that I'm working on. It's just easier to forget about it and move on. So, frog that. And so yeah, I think that's everything that I decided to frog. I won't always have a frogging section because generally I want to be able to knit the things that I have started and finish them. But I feel like I'm kind of clearing house a little bit, cleaning house after, like before the new year starts, so that I don't have any unnecessary projects that I don't really like anymore. So yeah, hopefully by the time I film my next podcast, hopefully by the time this podcast is up, those languishing whips will be instead pretty balls of yarn that can be used for something else more inspiring. And I must say, all of the patterns for these, they're all great patterns. There's nothing wrong with the patterns. I just don't love them right now. I'm just not into it. It's me, not them. So yeah. Have I blabbered enough for you this week? Sorry. So I think the last thing I will talk about is some goals for the near future. Some fibery things that I want to do. So the first thing, I have a basket here with some of my stuff in it, so I just have to root around. The first thing I want to do is I want to knit some yoga socks for myself. I found this pattern in a library book that I don't have it with me right now. It's just a yoga sock with no heel or toe, kind of tall with this pretty lacy pattern in it, and I think I want to try to knit some, and it works best in like a single ply sock yarn. So I have this pretty like fluffy yarn. It's called Graceful. It's by Loops and Threads. It's acrylic, and this is the pastel colorway, although I think it looks like that those tubs of sherbet that you can get with like the multi flavors in them, like the lime and the orange, and yeah, I think it looks like sherbet. So I got a whole bunch of balls of this on clearance. This was 99 cents on clearance because they discontinued this yarn. So I'm thinking I should actually do something with it. So I think these will look nice in that yoga socks pattern. I'm also hoping to, well, I'll talk about this first since it's in my lap. I got a few more fabrics. I'm hoping to sew up some more project bags, although I realized the reason why I haven't been sewing them lately is because I need more interfacing, and I didn't find the right type of interfacing at the fabric store when I went. But I did find some pretty fat quarters. I just really love this, like, this brocade sort of look, and I like it with this brown and gold pattern. So I think I'm going to make a bag with this for the outside and this for the lining. And then I also found some really special fabric. I got a whole yard of it. This is going to be a super special project bag. Maybe a few actually. But I just love it. It's just so much fun. These little reindeer and woodland creatures. So I got that as well. So I'm hoping to sew up some more project bags. I just need to get some interfacing so I can do that. Another goal I have is to needle felt up a couple more wool buddies, hopefully, to accompany Stanley the frog and Eunice the sheep. before I have to return the Wool Buddies book to the library. So I don't know which creatures I feel like felting up yet, but I want to felt up some. And then last, but certainly not least, I want to do some more spinning. First of all, I have some of this Gotland wool that I have a ball of singles for plying. I want to ply that up somehow. I haven't decided how I want to ply that up yet. But also, I want to clear up the spinning wheel so that I can start plying up these beautiful braids of fiber that one of my friends gave me, which is actually a ton of fiber because I started unbraiding it and it's actually legitimately braided, and each braid is like multiple strands of roving. So it's just a massive amount of fiber, and this is just one of the 2 braids she gave me. So I cannot wait to spin this up, and I just have felt like I need to spin up most of the fiber that my aunt gave me before I start spinning this, but I'm going to do this really, really soon. Maybe I'll ply up my bobbin full of singles today and then allow myself to, instead of a Christmas Eve cast on, I can do a Christmas Eve spinning treat, because I want to spin this so badly. So those are my goals. Besides, of course, keep knitting some of the whips that I've got in progress. Those are my goals, and I'm hoping to have a lot of work done on that for next week. I think I'll probably podcast again before the new year, but if I don't, have a happy new year and happy holidays in general, and I will see you later. Bye.